It's not every day that you're forced to fight a squid to death, let alone one with vicious electrified tentacles and a penchant for chewing on aircraft carriers. Nor is it every day that you see said squid get sawn in half by a loudmouth pimp, or its squelchy offspring squished into bloody black ink by a man with a rusty chainsaw for an arm. But then, this isn't your typical game. As brawlers go, Anarchy Reigns is certifiably insane, and that is most certainly a good thing. Its ability to combine kooky characters and bizarre situations with a thoroughly satisfying combat system is an admirable achievement, and an entertaining one at that, despite some repetitive missions and some iffy multiplayer modes.
He says he doesn't know, and this isn't Milvallen. Aren't you out of your jurisdiction?
Technically, Anarchy Reigns continues the story of Jack Kamen, the sadistic frontman of the Wii-exclusive Mad World, but with the exception of a few subtle nods to its spiritual predecessor, there's little to be missed by jumping straight into the action. The story won't make much sense either way. That's partly because little, if anything, is explained thoroughly enough for you to follow, and partly because the characters spout dialogue that's about as thoughtful as a Christmas card on Valentine's Day, and no less idiotic.
Yo, make me one of them wall scrolls, some fly-ass brush shit.
Still, in Anarchy Reigns, the plot serves the gameplay, not the other way around, and in that respect it succeeds in pushing you around from one fight to the next with little fuss. And boy, is there a lot of fighting to be done in Anarchy Reigns, so much in fact that it can get a little repetitive after a while. Thankfully, the third-person combat system makes punching, kicking, and performing gruesome bloody combos entertaining enough to stave off much of the creeping apathy. Part of that comes from its simplicity. There are just two types of attack for you to use, which combine to create all sorts of interesting combos, where Kamen swings, kicks, and uppercuts his opponents, turning them into a bloody mess. A subtle pause between each attack lets you know when to unleash the next, and gives the combat a fluid feel. Nailing the timing to perform combos can be tricky, particularly as none of the commands are listed anywhere, but it's so satisfying once you do. You can spice up your combos by using jumps, or by using Kamen's chainsaw, which saws smaller enemies in half and takes huge chunks of energy off larger ones. Thanks to the smooth combo system, adding the chainsaw into your regular attacks soon becomes second nature. Anarchy Reigns missions spread that grisly fighting out over several hub levels, on which are located missions for you to complete and various creatures for you to battle. The missions themselves are, on the whole, well thought out. Some have you trying to kill 100 bad guys against the clock, others have you fighting cyborgs with devastating energy weapons on rooftops, while still others have you slaughtering mutants by lopping their heads off with Kamen's chainsaw. There are more offbeat missions to play through too, including one that has you piloting a flamethrowing vehicle around an impromptu circuit, gleefully incinerating anything in your path. Despite the hub world setting, missions are unlocked one at a time in a linear fashion, though you can go back and replay certain ones if you're short on points or want to increase your high score and nab a platinum medal. And don't think for a second that those hub levels are particularly big either. The maps are very small, and apart from a few hidden power-ups to find, there's little to explore and discover. Tacked onto the tail end of each world is a boss battle which helps to break up the action, but some work better than others. One-on-one battles fare the worst, and you can often beat opponents just by hammering a few buttons. Better are the larger scale battles, such as the fight against the tentacle-waving Kraken. Anarchy Reigns offers a range of competitive multiplayer modes to battle through, but the learning curve online is steep, with more experienced players having already learned the intricacies of the combat. More often than not, your first few fights result in a quick, shameful death. Stick with it though, and it soon begins to click. Things change dramatically when more players get involved in modes like Team Deathmatch, Tag Deathmatch, and Capture the Flag. Up to 16 players can get together for a mass brawl, and combat gets very chaotic very quickly. Sometimes it's wonderful, but at other times the chaos simply gets in the way of the battling. The fluidity of the combat is lost when so many players are involved, making playing on smaller maps and in smaller teams of two much more enjoyable. A levelling system that goes all the way up to 50 tries to encourage continued play, but with health bars remaining static and a glacial rate of progress, there's little joy to levelling up. In attempting to meld first-person shooter-like modes with classic brawling, Anarchy Reigns multiplayer doesn't succeed in delivering the best of either. The visuals too lack that Platinum Games charm. Characters look like generic muscular video game guys or overtly sexualized females, while the environments often repeat textures and seem to be hidden behind a wall of blurry Vaseline. Where the game succeeds then is in its silky combat system, but only when it's put to use in the right way. There are moments of brilliance in smaller online battles or in some of the single player's set pieces, where it all seems to click and the gory combat becomes so enjoyable. Anarchy Reigns might not hit those highs often enough to be truly great, but it's different enough and crazy enough for a chainsaw-fueled rumble or two.